podcast. It is officially the After Lunch podcast today, Goodman, because I just had a fantastic chicken Caesar salad. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Jeff Goodman here with me, and we are going to be breaking down some things in the world of college basketball. Some big moves have been made by programs like Kansas, by some other programs around the country. There have not been many moves made by Kentucky, and I'm starting to get more worried by the day when I think about this team and look at what they could end up being this season. And I'm also going to ask you, Goodman, what you do right now if you are a team and you missed on the piece that you need to be able to kind of fill the gap that you have in your roster. The portal is kind of dried up a little bit. You're not finding any home runs. You're not finding superstars. You're not finding All-Americans out there in the transfer portal right now. Are you just hoping that one of these guys that withdraws from the NBA draft maybe can be the answer to your problems? We're going to get to the bottom of that here in a little bit. But before we do, you called it last week. You said that you believe that Kansas was the lock, surefire. No matter what happens, they're going to be my preseason #1 team in college basketball. I think that just has to do with the fact that you have a man crush on Bill Self. But beyond that, they got Kevin McCullar back on, I guess that
I have a man crush on Kevin McCullar.
You have a man crush on a lot of people.
McCullar, to be honest, because I love how hard he plays. I know he doesn't make shots, but I've loved him since he was at Texas Tech, just because I think he's a winning basketball player who you just put on the court. And again, he plays so damn hard. He does all the little things. He fits what, honestly, any program wants, but especially Kansas and Bill Self.
Yeah. So obviously with this addition, they're still going to be your preseason #1 team. Here's my biggest question with them heading into next season. Are you worried about the shooting? Are you worried about the floor spacing?
Well, I think, honestly, I think we need to bring in our next guest. Or our first guest that you don't know who it is.
I don't know.
You just know that it's somebody affiliated with the Kansas program. It could be anybody. It could be Hunter Dickinson. Could be Bill Self. It could be anybody. It is Bill Self, as you see from Bill's iPhone. Unless Hunter Dickinson has hijacked Bill Self's iPhone, I do believe it's going to be Bill Self once he figures out the video part of it. And there it is. So you can ask Bill that question. Instead of asking me that question, Rob, you can ask Bill that question.
Well, Bill, the question that I had was about the shooting. But before we get into all that, how you feeling, man? You doing all right over there? It's good to see you.
He's figuring out how to connect to audio. Technology must not be his strength. He probably has Chris Tyson do these things for him, is my guess. So he's figuring out the audio part. Bill, you got the audio figured out?
Well, I heard enough to know that I know Dauster runs everything that you guys do. So maybe I'm wrong.
That is true. Hey, that's accurate. I'm not pushing back on that at all.
Bill, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. What's happening with you?
You're looking at it, trying to enjoy the summer, trying to figure out ways where I don't have to talk to Jeff Goodman. I'm going to start you off with this, Bill, right? It's summer. It's nice and warm out. The sun's shining. What in the world made you make the decision to say, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to find a way to talk to Jeff Goodman.
You know, I'm actually in Florida right now. Also, just got here, so there's absolutely nothing else I could be doing better than do right now. So
how is your health, Bill? I mean, obviously, everybody, really the last time most people saw you was coaching at the end of the regular season. You had a little bit of a health scare at the end of the regular season going to the Big 12 tournament. Didn't coach then, didn't coach in the NCAA tournament. You know, I talked to you through that a little bit. I don't think people really understood kind of what happened. Can you take us through exactly what happened? I know it's some balance issues and whatnot. You look pretty good now, though.
Oh, well, that means a lot coming from you, that I look pretty good now. But, I had a situation that, I probably hadn't felt well for a while, but probably didn't know I didn't feel well because I didn't really ever feel good. And I found that out since then that I actually didn't feel well because I can tell what feeling well actually feels like now. So I had an episode the day before the Big 12 tournament where, I've had a heart issue going back to the fall that I didn't let anybody know about. And I had a valve replaced, aorta valve replaced, which is pretty common. I mean, it's not like it's a huge deal, and it happens with a lot of folks. and was told I would feel better immediately. And I just felt okay. I didn't ever feel better immediately. And then I had some lingering things kind of going on. And then the day before the Big 12 tournament, I had an episode where obviously it became much more than what it had been. And I got great care. They took me to KU Med Center and the KU hospital, and they took care of me, and I got a couple of stents put in there immediately. But it was more of a balance situation with me. It was obviously impacted by my heart, but it really affected my balance in a way where I thought I could coach until I stood up and did a quick movement, and then I kind of get disoriented or whatever. So they wouldn't let me coach, which was probably it's probably a wise decision for everybody. My team probably played better. I mean, Norm got them to the finals of the Big 12 tournament and played well. But the bottom line was as bad as I wanted to be out there, and I coached the teams in practice, I just was slower. But I could tell I wasn't quite right, and they told me I should lay off. But if we were fortunate enough to advance, I think I could have gone the next week in Vegas when we would have taken on Connecticut. But it was a learning experience, and I've taken a lot of things for granted in my life, health wise, and I'm sure a lot of folks have. And now it's made me think a little bit and value some things, maybe like eat right. Exercise,
drink less beer, Bill. Drink less beer.
Not so much that, but lose weight, which I guess drinking less beer goes into that. So
a little bit.
So hopefully I'll take those things a little bit more serious. But I'm fine now. I feel good.
Well, it's good to hear. I'm glad to see you looking well. Let's talk about this team that you have. You got the news on, I guess it was Wednesday, which would be yesterday, that Kevin McCullar is coming back. How big of an impact is that for you? What does that mean for this team?
Well, I think it means a ton for our team. Our rosters kind of come together nicely since the season's been over, and the portal's a strange thing, but the portal taketh away, but the portal giveth too, because we lost, I think, 6 guys or was it 7 guys in the portal. And we didn't anticipate losing. We probably
8 guys in the portal, Bill. 8.
So we probably anticipated losing 5 or 6. Just to be real candid, we probably anticipated doing that. We didn't lose any the year before, and not because of negative reasons, just because of better opportunities possibly for these kids. And I actually have been very happy and pleased with where they've landed, because I think they've gone to good spots for them respectively. But it was a unique situation. We didn't anticipate losing Ernest or Zuby there at the end. But when we got Hunter, it kind of threw things off a little bit, and those are good problems to have. It'll probably create really good situations, hopefully, for those two. But on the flip side, it's given us opportunity as well, so I really like our roster a lot. We only have 11 on scholarship, but I like our roster. I think it's a good blend. We've got basically 7 vets, and we've got 4 newbies, and I think it's a good balance because our freshmen or soon to be freshmen are talented. They're good players. A couple of them I really believe we'll see playing at the highest level here in 2 or 3 years, without question. But still, to have a Kevin McCullar, a Juwan, a Harris, a KJ Adams, a Nick Timberlake, Hunter Dickinson, and Arturia Morris, and now Kevin McCullar back in the fold. That's some experienced guys to go along with really 4 talented freshmen. So I like our roster. The portal's not good, and I'll be the first to say this, in a way that's good for our sport over time. Over time, the portal's not good, where kids can just leave all the time. And people say, well, they should be able to. Well, that's fine and dandy, but also the first time you hit a road bump, you shouldn't have to. You should actually go over it sometimes as opposed to around it. But the portal over time, I don't know that's going to be good for our sport. I don't see it being good for our sport over time. But for this one particular year, it was good for the portal. It was good for Kansas, and so hopefully we can take full advantage of it come this winter.
All right, so you didn't have a big that you could throw it into last year. You love having bigs that you could throw the ball into. Now you got one in Hunter Dickinson. After watching tape and really kind of breaking everything down with Hunter, I know you did on the visit, and I'm sure going into it. How does Hunter compare to some of the other really good big men you've had over the years?
I don't think I have a comparison offensively. I really don't. You know how some guys can just shoot the ball, and if it gets on the rim, it just finds a way to fall in. It's just a soft touch. Where some guys, it goes boom, 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 and then comes out. Some guys, it just kind of just softly just hits the rim. Joel offensively is probably the closest we had, but Joel for us, what did he average? 11 points a game. He was a freshman. He was young. He was green. Didn't know yet. Hunter is much more established offensively from a skill set standpoint. Now athletically, he's not where Joel is by any means like that. But I don't think I've had anybody like him. I really don't. Could you say a skill set like a Markeith Morris, maybe? Something like that. Yeah. But most of our bigs have been angle guys. They get an angle. The Cole Aldridges of the world, the Sashas, the Darnells, guys like that. Darrell Arthur wasn't really a true big, but probably is as close to Hunter from a skill set standpoint, being able to make a 17-footer and stepping out. But he's got a lot of things he's got to get better at to improve his ability to play at the next level as a 5-man plays at the next level. Because if he was ready for that, he wouldn't be in college still, because offensively he can score the ball. And, he can shoot. He shot 42% from three this year. And you'll probably bring it up, but, he may be one of our most effective 3-point shooters next year as well. So, which I don't know if that's a great thing, but certainly, I look for him to be a threat. But, the guy has averaged over 18 points a game for 3 years in the Big Ten. And the Big Ten's had as good a bigs as any league in the country. And with the defenses designed to stop him. So hopefully if we put some good parts around him, he'll be able to maneuver in a way that maybe he hasn't had as much freedom because of so much attention, in his first 3 years of school.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing about him is that we've seen you run teams where you got the big guy inside and everything is about, all right, let's find a way to get him a seal. Let's get him an angle where all he has to do is catch it and go dunk it, right? We've also seen you play with teams where you basically play 5 out. Last year's a perfect example. This year, you got a guy at the 5 that can do both of those things. Like you could have a lot of fun with this offense next year.
I think so too. We keep talking about Hunter, and we don't talk about what a great year KJ Adams had for us last year. Mm-hmm. KJ Adams is a prototypical 4-man, a Draymond Green type. Not saying he's Draymond, but a poor man's Draymond Green type. That when he played the 5, he was so effective in the short roll because he could get guys shots and probably as improved as any player in the country last year. But I've made a commitment to him. I want to play him some on the perimeter without question. And then we're still very small. And then we're very fortunate. We got Christian Brown's brother, Parker Brown, who people are sleeping on this guy. I mean, he's 6'10". He's an athlete. I mean, he's probably more athletic than Christian. He can play, elbows a rim high. He can do a lot of things. He can run. Now, granted, his role won't be near as big with us as what it would be if he was starting and playing 30 minutes a game. But I look around and I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty good at that 5 spot. Because you can, to your point, Rob, you can play different ways. I mean, you can play small when you play big at the 5, and you can play, obviously, play KJ at the 5 some and play extra small, or you play Parker and he can move around and play anywhere on the floor. He's really a 4-man playing the 5. So I'm pretty excited about getting creative. Maybe it'll test my ability to come up with some new stuff, which I'm pretty fired up about.
With everything that's changing in the game, Bill, one of the big topics for me that I keep thinking about is some of these guys. We saw it with Jay Wright, right? 60 years old, and he's done. He doesn't want to deal with this shit anymore. I think you might see a guy, to me, in my opinion, like Tony Bennett, maybe go out a little bit earlier because he doesn't want to deal with this shit. You're 60. Obviously, you got a team here that can, potentially win it all. But do you ever think about that of like, and I know you're making a ton of money here, so it's probably harder to leave when you look at your paycheck. But ultimately, when you look at how much the game has changed right now from a portal standpoint, from an NIL standpoint, everything, do you think about it a little bit more of like, hey, I don't know how much longer I want to do this?
I have thought about it, but it was more that it was forced on me to think about it here recently. I took about a month or 6 weeks and reflected and thought a lot about it. And the one thing that I have found out in the time in which I had my episode was how much I missed it. And I think sometimes we make decisions. I know I've done it with career moves, and you probably done it with career moves where you make a move and then buyer's remorse kicks in after you make the move. Even though
I did it when I went with Dauster. I mean, buyer's remorse immediately when I teamed up with Dauster.
Probably still experiencing it on a daily basis.
Nightmares.
But you know what I'm talking about. You know you made the right decision, but there's that doubt that has crept in. Should I have done this? Was the time right? And in this particular situation, I think it helped me because I think there's sometimes where guys or ladies get out of what they're doing and wish they hadn't done it. Just like there's some people that stay too long and wish they had. I think the opposite also comes into play. And with me, I think it kind of helped make my long-term decision a little clearer in that I missed this and I enjoy it. And as much as today's game has changed and as much uncertainty as there is with our sport in college basketball and all the things that are going on, I think in some way it's kind of re-energized me because if you don't change, you're going to get left behind. No So I think it's kind of energized me. Now, we can all believe what we think to be right. But the bottom line is we're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube. So we got to learn to adjust. And it's just like coaching when there was no shot clock to the 35-second or there's no three-point line to the three-point line. And the adjustments that old school, the best coaches our sport's ever known, the Eddie Suttons of the world, that had to adjust and do it so successfully. I think it's kind of in the same way now, but it's just off the court adjustments as much as it is on the court adjustments.
Bill, the one thing that I've always given Mark Few a ton of credit for is his ability to find that balance between working and living, right? Like he doesn't live to work, he works to live is the way that I like to phrase it.
Good.
Have you found yourself since your health scare, have you found yourself changing how many hours you put in? Are you putting in a deadline? Look, I'm off the clock at this time. These days, don't bother me.
He's looking at his wife right now. He's looking at his wife being like, I gotta get the hell off this so I can hit the beach.
That's not true at all. But I have never looked at the job in that you had to put in certain hours. I've always thought the job, if you look for something to do, you can never get finished. I've always thought, you can always call one more AAU coach. You can always contact one more person about recruiting at some point in time. There's obviously things that can be done that would never put an end to it. So I don't feel like that I could ever get finished, whether I was age 30 or age 60. But I do feel like now a lot of the things I did at age 30 were really not working very smart at all. Not at all. I feel like I wasted time. I feel like I was in the office just to be in the office a lot of times. And so I do think, to Rob's point, I do think there's an opportunity now being a little bit older and understanding how this really works and what really recruits players and how to develop relationships. I can't tell you how many note cards I used to write, and I'll bet you half of them were never read. Things like that. And so I've kind of been the polar opposite on those types of things. But I do think working smarter allows you to live more. And of course, if you lived on a river and you were able to fly fish every day and that kind of stuff, that would probably add. We have a river in Lawrence, but nobody's fly fishing over there.
Hey, he's fly fishing and he's playing pickleball. And that's all he's doing right now. Trust me. That's all he's doing. And everybody else is jealous because somehow, some way, Mark Few keeps getting it done without working the same hours that you and Izzo and all those other dudes are working.
But see, I think sometimes we take that we don't give credit where it's deserved. He's working.
Yes,
he knows what works for him, and what works for him has worked as well for him as it has any coach in America over the last 20 years.
Last one I have for you. You and I were watching Arturia Morris a couple summers ago down somewhere. I can't even remember which AU event it was, but I remember turning to you and saying, like, this dude, I don't know if there's 10 more talented dudes in this class than Arturia Morris. He goes to Texas, plays a little bit of a role there. McDonald's All-American, transfers in. How much of an X factor can Arturia Morris be for you? Because again, he's electric, he's dynamic, he's got all the physical attributes.
Well, first of all, he's been at a place where he was obviously one of the more talented players on the team, but the way that Texas was so talented in the guard spot, being young and competing against, the Marcus Carrs and the Serge Ibaka, those guys, and Tyrese Hunter, those guys were proven at this level. And so he kind of settled into the fourth guard. But I've had a lot of guys that have been fourth guards on my team when they first get here and end up being NBA long-term players. I see him as being one of those guys. I see him as a guy that if he plays well for us, I think he could be as talented as any guard in our league if he plays well for us. And I think he's thirsty. I think he's hungry. Obviously he's been through some stuff, been humbled, some things like that, which also will add to his chip on the shoulder to want to show everybody what he's capable of doing.
All right, listen, let him get out of here so he can hit the beach. Because
that's what I'll do.
Yeah, just don't take your shirt off, whatever you do.
Don't worry. I won't.
All right, listen. Thanks for joining us. Glad your health is well, and I'm sure we'll see you at Peach Jam in early July.
I'll be there.
All right, you got it.
Thanks, Bill. While we get Bill out of here,
I started taking
going
AG1
to run
during
to a
college
quick break. On the
basketball
other
season,
side of
and I loved the impact that it had on my energy levels. I'm a big coffee in the morning guy, but by the time that the afternoon would hit, I needed another boost. AG1 helped me tremendously, especially on those days when I didn't want to get up off the couch and go hit the gym. Their tagline is AG1 is comprehensive health and the power of habit in one. And man, that could not be more true. It's nearly impossible to eat and drink in a healthy manner in the month of February and the month of March when you are in my business. And AG1 was exactly the supplement that I needed to improve my gut health and cover my nutritional basis for the day. I've continued that into April. I've continued that into May, and I'm going to continue that the rest of the summer. All I have to do is mix a scoop of AG1 with some water or maybe add it into a smoothie and I'm ready to go. Do it after lunch and you'll be ready to go for the rest of the day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/field68. That's Field 68 FIELD, the number 6, the number 8, and you can get yours now. So check it out and help support this show. Thanks.
Welcome back to the Field of 68. Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me, and we are going to discuss the Kentucky Wildcats because while Kansas is out here crushing the portal, while Arkansas is out here adding all of the different pieces that they want, while you have what feels like half of America going out and finding the answers that are to the questions on their roster. Kentucky has kind of stood pat, right? They added a new assistant coach this week.
Tom Welch was their big addition.
And they have a whole bunch of really talented freshmen coming in. But if they don't have Oscar Tshiebwe coming back, this is what it looks like their starting lineup could end up being. DJ Wagner, Antonio Reeves, Justin Edwards, Chris Livingston, Aaron Bradshaw, maybe Ugonna Kingsley gets in there somewhere, Robert Dillingham.
Hold on.
Here's my concern.
You're saying Livingston and Reeves, they're completely up in the air.
Yeah, but hold on, listen. So that's a best case scenario without Tshiebwe, right? Here's my concern. Last year, 17 of the top 100 freshmen in college basketball averaged in double figures. Only 11 of the top 25 freshmen in college basketball averaged double figures. 62 of the top 100 transfers averaged double figures. If you go back another year, 21 of the top 100 recruits in the country, freshmen in the country, averaged double figures. Only 13 of the top 25 recruits averaged double figures, where 53 of the top 100 rated transfers in college basketball added double figures. Everybody's getting older. Everyone has kind of figured out, hey, look, you need to get some of these transfers, these older guys, these portal guys, these veterans, if you really want to make a splash in March. Kentucky, in a year where the 2023 recruiting class is not one of the best that we've ever seen, is going all in on the freshman route again. Is that explain that one to me, because that doesn't make sense to me, Jeff.
Well, it's a terrible idea, but that's not the plan. That is not John Calipari's plan, to be young and play all these freshmen 30, 32 minutes. You know, the hope is he gets Reeves or Livingston. I mean, Livingston didn't do a hell of a lot. He should come back. I mean, Chris Livingston, to me, it's a no-brainer. Come back, be a veteran on this team, be a focal point. Again, the problem if you're Chris Livingston is, are you going to be a focal point? Because Cal's going to play a lot of these freshmen. But I think there's room, you know, if Oscar's not here, but they bring Reeves and Livingston back, which I'm not sure that's going to happen at this point, they could still be pretty good. They need probably two of those three to be back for me to feel pretty good, or to go get in the portal.
Define pretty good for me. Define pretty good. What is pretty good? Like, where do you stand on them kind of in the national picture?
Well, it's hard. Again, it's hard unless you know who's back, right? Like, they need Reeves back because they need a shooter. Like, he may be as important to me as anything, because I'm not a huge Wagner Dillingham backcourt guy, because again, they're I've said it over and over and over. People kill me for it, but they're high volume, low efficiency freshmen. That is a horrible combination to be right now in college basketball. They'll be good in the regular season. Again, they'll win enough games because they've got enough talent. I love Justin Edwards on the wing. I love Aaron Bradshaw. But again, they're still freshmen. I actually think if Tshiebwe doesn't come back, I wouldn't mind seeing Bradshaw play the 5. He wants to play the 3, and he's skinny. I get it. But man, there would be a blast to watch if you had like Reeves, Livingston, and I know they got the kid on Yenso who came back. He could play some, obviously, at the 5. Maybe he'd play a lot. But I'd rather see him go small ball, to be honest, than play Bradshaw at the 5, like Livingston at the 4. You don't have to play these freshmen quite as much. You got Reeves on the wing with maybe 2 of these freshmen. That to me is the perfect scenario. If you got to play 2, maybe 3 of these freshmen, big minutes, and the problem is who are you not going to play? Like, Reed Sheppard might be the one they need the most in a way, because he can make shots. He can make shots and move the ball. But I think he's the most likely to get buried because he's a top 50 player. He's going to be probably a 4-year kid, and he'll wait his turn because he's the son of Jeff Sheppard.
Yeah, I mean, it's also fine if he waits his turn, because I think that if you get Antonio Reeves back, then I think it's hard. I think it's hard to play both of those guys together because they're kind of the same. Like,
if Reeves isn't back, what I'm saying, if Reeves leaves, you need a shooter.
If Reeves leaves, it's
going to be a lot of balls flanking off the rim. A lot of
it's
them.
it's not a great situation.
No,
for Kentucky at all.
Again, they'll win enough games.
And here's my biggest thing. Like the single biggest concern that I have is that when you look at this crop of freshmen, there is no superstar, right? You're not looking at them and saying, okay, that guy right there is a Brandon Miller caliber, like that kind of an impact.
No, but I think Bradshaw and Edwards have high ceilings.
Okay. They might have very high ceilings. Are either of those guys go-to players? Are either of them the best player on a Final Four team?
Edwards could be. We don't know that yet.
So?
Edwards could be.
We'll see. I envision him as more of a complementary piece and like a secondary option as opposed to the guy that's going to be the star. Here's the other question I have. Point guard play. Do they really have a point guard? Or do they have guys that are scorers that want to be the guy bringing the ball up? That is the other issue that I have. Like, it's a weird roster fit. I don't know if they necessarily have a dude. I don't know if they necessarily have a star. And I don't know if there's necessarily a superstar in this class. Now, the X factor in all this is DJ Wagner. Because if there's one thing that you can say about him and that like that family lineage is they have guys that tend to show up in big moments, right? They have guys that tend to understand what it takes to be a superstar. So we'll see what happens with DJ there. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he could just like get to college and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, this dude's getting 19 a game kind of a thing. Right. But I think that's kind of what you need out of those guards. Like you need them to be Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox level, that backcourt. Right. And I don't know if that backcourt is Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox level.
I mean, probably not. I do think like Dillingham is electric. Like he can get to the basket. He's fun to watch. But again, there's a difference between being a bucket and being an efficient bucket. And I don't think Wagner or Dillingham are that. I think Edwards is the guy. If I'm saying I'm going to build my team around today, again, I don't know how they're going to be work ethic. I don't know how much. A lot of it's going to depend on health going in. Because we've seen it with a lot of freshmen. If you get hurt and get behind, it's hard to play catch up, no matter how good you are, picking things up, right? How well you've been coached. We've seen them in AAU ball. We don't know. Again, a lot of these freshmen, we don't know how they're going to be able to pick things up. And John Welch, hopefully he will help. I was hoping they'd get another John Beeline to help out, John Calipari. John Welch is not that, but he is respected within the NBA. I've talked to NBA people about him. Longtime NBA guy, player development guy. He's going to help out with the offense. So I don't think that's going to hurt again. But like you said at the top of this segment, bottom line is if you're banking on a bunch of freshmen these days, a freshman laden team, you're screwed. You're not, honestly. I don't think you're going anywhere in the NCAA tournament. They haven't gone anywhere with some veterans over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, if your freshmen aren't Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish level, if your freshmen aren't Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Marquise Teague level, like if you're not bringing in absolute game changers, you're just bringing in guys that are going to be complementary pieces.
Yes.
And I don't think that works to be able to bring in and rely on just a group of freshmen. For that. All right. So let me ask you this then, because I think that this is a really interesting conversation to have, considering what we just discussed with Kentucky. If you don't have your pieces right now, what are these programs doing? Because in the past, it was something where you go get one of these 3-star kids, someone that's like a borderline top 150, you bring him in, you just have him on the roster for a year, you see if it ends up working out, and then you kind of funnel out for from a transfer perspective. Are you going into the portal and are you rolling the dice? Are you trying to find some guy that maybe is under the radar? Are you going to try to bring up a player that was maybe not like a top 75 kind of a transfer? Are you going to some of these mid-major programs and seeing if there's somebody left in the portal? Because like the portal's kind of been picked clean. Or are you banking on the idea like, hey, you know what? Maybe if Julian Phillips comes back, he's the kind of guy that we can get in the mix with. Maybe if Olivier Kamwa decides to come back to school, he's someone we can get in the mix with. Like, what are you doing right now if you are a program and you don't have the answer yet? You don't have the piece.
I mean, if you're Kentucky, absolutely, you're going hard after a Arthur Kaluma, a Julian Phillips, a Grant Nelson, those
Caleb
guys.
A Caleb Love,
Well,
that kind of a guy.
No, I would not go after Caleb. I mean,
Why?
again,
Kentucky doesn't. If there's anything this Kentucky team doesn't have, it is low efficiency shot takers in the backcourt.
Caleb Love is kind of. I hate to say it. No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Don't. We'll get into we'll discuss Caleb Love in a second.
Yeah.
What are you doing right now if you whiffed?
I feel like, again, if you whiffed at this point, you got to get somebody, and you're going to overpay. That's kind of the problem these days is you're going to overpay. If I'm a kid, here's some advice to these kids going in the portal. Okay, next year, go in the portal late. Wait until the very end. You will get way more money because, again, as you said, the portal has dried up. It's supply and demand, and right now, there's just not a lot of supply and a huge amount of demand for all these schools that are missed at this point. So even like a Caleb Love, right? Like might have benefited him in a way, not being able to get into Michigan, because now you've got, again, I know you're not ready to maybe go there, but we probably could, is Arizona, Eric Bossi put out, there were 3 schools that are in the mix, firmly in the mix for him. Arizona, Gonzaga, which Mark Few, Tommy Lloyd, Nemhard obviously chose Gonzaga over Arizona. And then you got Texas, and they've already got a really good backcourt with Tyrese Hunter and Max Abmas. So I don't even know why. They do need another guard. They need another perimeter guy. To me, I got to say, I'd be very, very worried about taking Caleb Love. I just would. And I don't like saying anything negative about these college kids, but I will say it's a little bit easier now, again, because they're getting paid. And Caleb Love probably made more money than I did last year. So it's a little bit easier to be able to say, again, he's got to change. And he's got to be a good team guy who understands what's a good decision, what's a poor decision. And I think we're too late in the game for that. For Mark Few, for Tommy Lloyd, certainly for Rodney Terry, to be able to get this kid in 8 months to figure that part out. I just don't see it.
I hear you. The fit at Arizona seems really weird to me because they already have a couple of high volume volume guards.
But he can shoot. Jaden Bradley can't shoot, and we don't know how good a shooter Boswell is. So Caleb Love on the right night can shoot.
Caleb Love can shoot if the shot selection is a good decision.
Correct.
And I think that it's also something where I kind of would want to see what Kylan Boswell can be with the ball in his hands as opposed to Caleb Love. And I don't think you're playing Caleb Love off the ball. Same thing with Gonzaga.
Should play him off the ball.
I think he makes the most sense kind of as like your 6th man energy guy off the bench if you're Gonzaga with what they have coming back. I don't know if that's something he's going to buy into, but I will say this about Caleb Love. And I do want to talk about Michigan and like the fact that we're now back-to-back transfer cycles where they weren't able to get their top target to actually be able to get into the school, which I think is a little bit of a concern. Hunter Dickinson said he made less than 6 figures from Michigan. If we're going to take that at face value, I think that's a little bit of a concern. But I wonder if what has happened with Caleb Love is we heard Bill Self talk about Arturia Morris got a little bit of humble pie, right? I wonder if that's going to be a thing, because I'll tell you this much, man. There is a player in there, right? Like that dude is, how many guards in college basketball, just strictly on talent, are going to be more talented than Caleb Love? And if you're a coach that believes in what you can do, and you go back and you just watch the second half against Duke from the Final Four in 2022, right? You watch that and you say, I can be the one that can get the best out of him every single. I can be the one that can get that Caleb Love. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are going to convince themselves of that. Like when he is at his best,
those three schools are not in desperation mode. Michigan was in desperation mode when they took Caleb Love. These 3 schools don't need Caleb Love. Now, maybe that's a reason to take him, is because you don't need him. So you know what? If he doesn't buy in, then you just sit him on the bench. Maybe you do that, and you can do that if you're those 3 schools.
Yeah, and I do think that Mark Few has enough cachet that he'll be able to get him in. And look, Rodney Terry's been around a lot of very talented players in his time at Texas and since he's been there. And I got to imagine that would have some impact as well. When it comes to Michigan, Caleb Love was, I don't know what the official release said, but basically he was not able to get into the school, right? And it's something similar. We heard the same coming out of Michigan last year when
Terrence Shannon was expected to go there and ended up at Illinois. Hunter Dickinson is saying that he made less than six figures from Michigan. I'm a little bit skeptical of whether or not he made less than six figures total. If you want to tell me that money, he only made a certain amount of money coming directly from Michigan in the collective, as opposed to going out in other deals that he made, that's something that I probably would buy a little bit more. Remember, he said from Michigan, not at Michigan.
Right.
But all that said, that's a little bit worrying considering what the current marketplace looks like and the importance that comes with having a transfer. Like if you can't get a transfer in from the University of North Carolina, unless Caleb Love was taking all those paper classes that Rashad McCants was taking back in the day, like what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I guess Michigan's a tough academic institution. I'll feel terrible if Caleb Love ends up getting in Arizona, but he couldn't get into Michigan. I thought my Arizona education was worth something, but evidently it's not.
It took you 6.5 years to get a bachelor's degree from Arizona, dude. Like, come on, what are we talking about
when
here?
you want to leave Tucson to come back to Boston? No. I tried to run it out even more than that. Couldn't do it.
Well, your biggest problem is that every weekend you left Tucson to go to Vegas, so.
$40 Morris Air round trip. You would have too. Listen, I mean, listen. I think ultimately Juwan Howard's got a lot of things working against him right now. Right, you lost your momentum. You don't have huge NIL. It's funny because I've said this about a lot of the former NBA guys. They don't work that hard. They don't work that hard. I've been told by people close to Juwan, he does work. He does work, but again, you got a bunch of highly rated guys and didn't do much with them. You were in the Elite Eight. You were really close to a Final Four. Everybody was saying Juwan's that guy that's proven my theory wrong about former NBA guys. And then it's flipped now, and now it's he's just one of them again. That John Beilein culture that he took over, that's gone now. And you had 2 first-round picks in your son and Kobe Buffkin and Hunter Dickinson, an All-American type big, and you didn't get to the NCAA tournament. And now your roster looks like dog shit, to be honest. It doesn't look good for next season. And I don't know what they're going to do to be able to improve it. You're going to have to maximize what you get out of these guys ultimately. But it just keeps kind of going down now, and it's going to be hard to get it back.
It's actually really interesting because when it comes to Juwan, the one thing that I really believed in when he got there was like, this is a dude that spent 25 years in the NBA. He had spent 6 years on the bench with Eric Spoelstra. Like I just
Spoelstra? What is he related to the Palestra?
What did I say?
Spoelstra. I'm going to tell him he said that when I see him tonight.
There is absolutely no way that there's absolutely no way that Eric that Spo will talk to you. We know that for a fact.
I actually talked to him for a story about Juwan years ago, coming off that Elite Eight, and I was going to write it. And
he doesn't. Don't pretend like he likes you. We all know he doesn't.
I'm telling you,
he's about to make the NBA Finals, and you think this dude cares about what Jeff Goodman has to say?
I'm telling you, he spent. I talked to both of them, and they both said Juwan's kind of a different dude, that he does work his ass off. So I kind of bought into that. I don't think it's about work ethic again. I
don't think so either. But the thing that I was not worried about was the coaching. Like, you spend 6 years on the bench with that dude, and you spend 25 total years in the NBA. I believe in your basketball acumen. Having said all that, when you have a dude as good as Kobe Buffkin, when you have a guy that is as good of a shooter as Jet Howard was, and you have maybe the best player in college basketball, the best transfer we've ever seen at the very least, and like a guy that is a top 10 player in the sport last season, and you go 18-16. I know they lost a lot of close games. I know it took them a while to get Kobe Buffkin going, but like that makes absolutely no sense to me. Beyond, I guess, I worry about if you have that much talent and you can't find a way to get it done. Like, how are we feeling great about this thing moving forward? Right. Especially when you're not going to get this support from the athletic department in the university that you probably should be getting if you are fucking Michigan. Yeah. Right. You think Jim Harbaugh's got an issue getting players in? You think he's got an issue with NIL? You think he's got an issue with money? Maybe Michigan just doesn't care about hoops. I guess it's a Spartan state.
Can we talk about some of these other teams other than Michigan that we're really concerned about? I got a few.
All right, look, you go first. I have a list of 4. I'm not really concerned about them. They're just teams that I think are
I'm really concerned.
Be really good, but are missing a piece. All right, you give me your list and I'll give you mine after.
All right, so I'm looking at Virginia's roster and I'm like, holy shit. Like, this could be really, really tough for Tony Bennett. Like, okay. So obviously we know what they lost. Caden Shedrick, we had him on our show and he kind of took some shots at Tony Bennett. The other big kid, Kafaro, left as well. He's going to Santa Clara. Isaac Trout, who Tony Bennett loved, freshman last year, didn't play a lot, but can shoot it. He's going to Creighton. So, and he lost Gardner and Franklin graduated. So Reese Beekman should be back, I would assume. Other than that, okay, who's their next best player back, Rob, that you know of? Give me the second best player back for me.
It's not.
Can you name another player? How
about
bottom
that? Line? The bottom line is this: it's not good if you're Virginia right now. And we're sitting here like, okay, the best player you got coming back is Reese Beekman, who really disappointed everyone. And then,
name me another player on Virginia right now, Rob.
Who was that freshman that made a bunch of shots for him in that one game? Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, McNeely's decent. They like him.
Is he
Ryan Dunn? They like Ryan Dunn, another freshman that's going to be a sophomore. So those two are going to have to make it.
He's actually a stud. Dunn is a stud.
Right. He's talented.
Look, you're burying the lead. Kihei Clark, he just got a waiver for his 17th season in college basketball. He'll be back again.
Here's who they got for transfers. Here's who they got for transfers. You ready for this? The other Groves brother, Jacob, who averaged 6 points a game at Oklahoma last year. Dante Harris, who might be talented. He didn't play at Georgetown last year at all. He transferred before the season. Jordan Minor at Merrimack. He was at Merrimack. And Andrew Rohde at St. Thomas. St. Thomas, which just went D1, their transition. They got 3 freshmen coming in. You never know what you're going to get out of these Virginia freshmen. It looks, I have all the respect in the world for Tony Bennett and him being able to maximize talent. I just look at this roster and I'm like, again, I said it, I kind of mentioned it to self. I just don't know how much longer Tony Bennett's going to do this, because I don't think he's going to be the type to try to raise money or work with a collective or any of that crap to try to pay these kids big money to be able to get them. Not that he needs a lot of them, but he needs something.
All right. So the number one team that I had on my list, I looked at it a little bit differently.
Okay.
I kind of looked at it like, who is missing a piece? Who was I expecting to get something out of the portal to try to add something to try to fix a flaw in the offseason that they didn't fix? Okay. And the top 2 on my list were Purdue and Arkansas. Purdue,
you went about it different than me.
Yeah, but I went about it very differently. Purdue, I expected them to go out and try to get a killer point guard, somebody like one of the best point guards, someone like a Ray J. Dennis, someone of that kind of caliber, that level out of the portal. And we talked to Matt on when was that? Was that last week? We talked to him last week, and he kind of doubled down and said Braden Smith had a great year. We're going to back our players. I'm going to support the guys in our program, and I respect that and I understand it. I think it's a little bit of a gamble, but look, there's a reason why people say the best thing about freshmen is they become sophomores, right? So if you're going to tell me that you're going to go all in on the 2 guys that led you to a Big Ten tournament and a Big Ten regular season title, I get it. I just expected them to make another addition. And then Arkansas, the obvious thing is the shooting, right? That was their big kind of red flag last year. It looks like it's going to be another concern this year. And I don't see the same level of, I guess, NBA talent. They had killers last year. That's why everyone loved them. Anthony Black, Nick Smith. I don't know if they have that. They added a bunch of solid players. I don't know if they necessarily have a superstar. So those are the 2 that kind of stood out to me. We did this very differently. Give me the next team on your list.
I got a bunch. I'm going to go Memphis next. Okay. Memphis loses, obviously, Kendrick Davis, DeAndre Williams. I don't think he's coming back for his 8th year in college. He'd be 27 years old. Here's who they brought in. Caleb Mills, good get from Florida State. I think he'll be a solid piece. He averaged double digits last year. Kid from Temple, Nick Jourdain, who averaged 6 points a game. Jalon Young, Central Florida transfer, averaged 4.5 points a game. Sophia Leonard, kid from Middle Tennessee State, averaged 8 points a game. Jonathan Pierre, Nova Southeastern, who they won it all, I think. They were really good division. I don't know if they're 2 or 3.
He's actually a pretty good player.
6'10" wing who's supposedly versatile, skilled. But again, not overwhelming. You bring in Mikey Williams, who
will they? Are they going to bring in Mikey Williams?
Well, as of now, I think Mikey Williams is coming in. And then, you got some other like top 100-ish recruits. That is a very, very, very underwhelming roster, Robert. Very underwhelming. Am I wrong?
No, you were absolutely not wrong.
You want another one?
Yeah, give me another. Keep firing them at me.
All right, I'm gonna keep firing them at you. I'm gonna get 2. You went Arkansas. I'm going Auburn and Alabama. Okay. Auburn might be okay. I just don't know if they're going to be any better than they were last year. They bring in Denver Jones, FIU transfer, a couple, I think one Juke, and the kid who was at San Diego State, Chad Baker. I can't remember his last name, but he was good at San Diego State. Then did a year at Northwest Florida State. 6'7", can really shoot it. They bring in Aiden Holloway.
Baker
Mazzara. Thank you. Aiden Holloway, who I actually love. So maybe I'm selling them short a little bit, but they lost some guys, Alan Flanagan, Chase Westry, Johan Traore, that I think would have made a jump. They didn't play a lot as freshmen, Westry and Traore, and Flanagan I think would have helped. He's going to probably go with his dad to Ole Miss. All right, let's go on to Alabama.
Well, can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing about Auburn? As long as their backcourt is Wendell Green and Katie Johnson, like that's always going to be something that's a red flag to me, because I think that they
well, Wendell's gone.
That's right. He's
gone.
But it's
Katie's back. So it's like Joni Broom, Jalen Williams, Katie Johnson, then Aiden Holloway. I'm probably off on them. I just don't know if their ceiling is going to be high. I think there can be a tournament team again, but I think it's going to be kind of more of the same to some degree. But I like Holloway better than Wendell Green. So maybe I'm wrong. Alabama is the one that I think we had high hopes for this year. And people were thinking, even without Brandon Miller, they could maybe still be a top 10-ish team. And I will tell you, their roster now with Bediako leaving. So now they lose Brandon Miller, Noah Clowney, and Charles Bediako all to the NBA. They have nothing up front. They're going to have to play small ball. They got a great guard in Aaron Estrada from Hofstra. The kid Wright from Cal State Fullerton. I don't know how good he'll be at the SEC level. Sears back. Quinterly probably back. Rylan Griffin will take a jump. Pringle. Like, they'll be good. But like they're not going to have the ceiling they had.
You know what they need to do? And I'm sure, like, I don't need to be telling Nate Oates this, but they should have been, the second that they realized Bediako wasn't coming back, they should have been on the phone offering the entire bag that Bediako was going to get to Ernest Uday.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He can do some of the same things. Maybe not at the same level, but he can help you with rim protection. So you're right. He certainly is one. Baylor, I'm worried about. I mean, if Flagler doesn't come back, Baylor from like Jalen Bridges, I assume he'll come back. Langston Love, Caleb Lohner, who was inconsistent, and Bridges was inconsistent. Jaden Nunn they got as a transfer from VCU. Then they got some good freshmen coming in. But again, freshmen. Jacoby Walter, talented as hell. But freshman, Mira Little, point guard, freshman. Like, to me, Scott Drew's got to add another piece here or two, and he better get.
I think he's looking at a little bit of I think it was a little bit of bad luck with the LJ Cryer transfer and the Langston Love injury. But I do think that you're looking at a little bit of a rebuild. Like, the thing about the program that he built that won the national title is you had a chance to develop them over multiple years. There were so many guys that sat out a year. Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell with the transfer. Mark Vidal was like, how long was he? It felt like he was committed to Baylor and then enrolled. Like, he was a part of that program for like 9 years from the time he committed to the time that he finally graduated. Macy Teague sat out. Like, they were together for a long time.
Yep.
And I think that as much as the talent that they had,
and the unique pieces that were put together. I do think that was part of it, is that they were just together for so long. And it's like you're trying to recapture that lightning in a bottle. And that's a very difficult thing to do when you're bringing in Keontae George for a year and then he's gone. And you're bringing in a guy like a Kendall Brown and a Jeremy Sohan for a year and then they're gone. And you're thinking that you're going to have LJ Cryer back for his junior year when he's going to make this huge leap. And he's transferring to another program that is in your state and in your conference. So that's tough, man. That's tough. I think there's going to be a little bit of time before they get back to being that like Big 12 title contender level. I trust Scott Drew to be able to figure it out with the pieces that he has, but like agreed. That's a red flag to me.
But those are the ones. Those are the ones I kind of wrote down. Memphis, and again, some obviously with higher expectations than others. Baylor and Alabama have very high expectations. We're expecting them to be a top 10 team now every year. I don't know if they're going to be that. They're probably going to be top 25-ish is my guess. Virginia could go from top 20 to honestly an NIT team again, which they were a couple of years ago.
It's going to depend. So the Virginia thing, the more that I think about it, right? Like I think it's going to depend on how these transfers make the adjustment up a level, because they brought in some guys that were really good in their league, right? You mentioned the kid coming in from Jordan Minor. Yeah. Like he was a dominant player.
Yeah, good piece. He'll be a good piece.
But it was the NEC. Like you mentioned the kid that they're bringing in from who was the kid from St. Thomas?
Kyle
Rhodey. Yeah, the Rhodey kid. Like he was terrific in the Summit League.
Yeah.
You don't have to play defense in the Summit League, right? They don't play defense in that conference. So
what about Illinois? Where do you stand with Illinois?
Man, without Ray J. Dennis, and if they don't get Terrence Shannon, like they need one of those two.
Ray J. Dennis told me he's going to announce soon here. A lot of people think it's going to be Utah. He said it's he told me not necessarily, like he's not decided yet. He doesn't know exactly. I'm sure he does know where he's going, but he's got a connection with somebody at Utah. Obviously Illinois. He's from Chicago. They need a point guard desperately. Baylor, another one that needs a point guard if Flagler doesn't come back, and then Michigan. Those are the four schools that he visited that he's looking at. So
yeah. So if Illinois doesn't get Ray J. Dennis and they don't get Terrence Shannon, like there's some pieces on that roster, especially if Coleman Hawkins comes back, but there is not a ton there. Like they had enough issues at the point guard position last season.
Right.
And now you're losing the guys that you actually did have. Like that's not a good combination of things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Illinois, you can't win at a high level. You can win a bunch of games, which is what they did last year. You can win a bunch of games and be pretty good. You're just going to be ultra inconsistent if you don't have a point guard.
So let's put it like this with Illinois. Like I like Sincere Harris. I think Luke Goody's going to have a chance to be pretty good. Like pieces. Ty Rodgers did some really good things. Dane Danger, we know what he can be when he gets going to the post. The transfers that they brought in, I think, kind of fit the Brad Underwood system, right? But none of that matters if Jaden Epps is gone. I thought that he was going to be a guy that could have a really good year. If you don't have Terrence Shannon, who like isn't even really a point guard that you want. If you don't have Ray J. Dennis, like it's a problem. I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're going to do. Like how do you, if you don't get Ray J. Dennis, there's no other answer in the portal. Like where are you going?
Yeah, I don't know. Rob, I got one thing before we finish the show. Okay. We got a little special thing that I didn't want to have to do this, but I got to show the video here because we have gotten into the power slap. Okay, we have gotten in there. And it's huge out in Vegas. Dana White involved. If you haven't seen it, here's going to be your opportunity, your first look at the Power Slap League. And again, this video that's going to follow Rob Dauster forever. Rob, I mean, embarrassing, really embarrassing for you.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I haven't seen any video. The only thing I know is that you didn't know what the Power Slap League was until like 3 days ago. So like,
I have
We're
no
gonna
idea
have a
what's
little
going
field
on
of
right
68. There's gonna be a field of 6. You after that video, you get Fana next. You versus Fana in Power Slap at the Final Four next year in Scottsdale. We'll do it at a bar at one of those really good clubs in Scottsdale. You and Fana, and we'll see who survives. I'm taking Fana. I'm taking Fana for the win.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Trevor needs a new Trevor's fired.
All right, there you have it. All right, we gotta be done with this show. I got things to do. It's beautiful outside. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Thanks to Bill Self for jumping on from his estate in Florida. Producer Dagan Hughes, and what a great hosting job good old Rob Dauster did today. Good job, Rob.